This is Mike Wall. Welcome back to another episode of the Agent Revolution podcast presented by Mike Wall Live, the place where we deconstruct the biggest challenges facing today's real estate agents so that they can build a sustainable, profitable, and most of all, fulfilling real estate business. Man, I'm really excited today. The first part of that statement, I think, will truly encompass today's show. When I talk about the biggest challenges facing today's real estate business, because we do have some challenges today. One that comes to mind, especially, is the whole pandemic, right? This coronavirus thing that we've been dealing with since the first of the year, essentially, and certainly had its impact on our industry, on our agents, and in the marketing for today's episode, I talked a little bit about how some agents are thriving, right? Some agents are doing really well, and some agents aren't having success, and they're suffering. And in some cases, it's not their fault, right? Entire industries are shut down. Governments aren't letting people do their job because they're deeming it as unsafe, and in some cases, they're correct. But what I want to do today is I've got my friend Andrea Blum from Toronto, Canada, and we're going to talk a little bit about her specific situation because, obviously she's done really well in our industry and continues to do so. But she's also been affected by this pandemic. And I think it's interesting. We talked a little bit before the show about her story and for her to share that with you. And I think you all can take a lot away from her experience. And so without further ado, Miss Andrea, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. I'm good. Thank you for having me. Really a pleasure.
Well, we're glad to have you on the show.
I hear you with interruptions. I hope it comes out of.
Yeah, well.
Oh, I have you back now.
Yeah. Sometimes, we do have technical difficulties. And in my estimation, it would not be a normal show if we did not have technical difficulties. And
no problem.
The funny thing about this is I did one of these for my friend Trisha Turner at noon, and we encountered our own technical difficulties when we did that show. So it's an authentic show. It's live, and sometimes you run into those things. But
yes.
Regardless of that, welcome to the show, and I'm excited to share your story today. But before we do that, if you don't mind, share with the audience your background. How did you venture into real estate?
Funny you were asking that. I moved in Canada actually in 2007 from Romania back home, and as a new immigrant, I took any job that I was able to, and I ended up being a salesperson in a store. And it was funny that the manager that I had there, she encouraged me to look into any other businesses that have something to do with sales. Mm-hmm. And I'll bring that subject up later because I think that's something that I'm starting to see more and more as a trend in our industry. But just making a long story short, she encouraged me to do so, to go in any other industries that are sales oriented. And I literally just went home and Googled and see which one will actually fit my background, my experiences, or something that I will feel attracted. But also most important for me, which one will give me the possibility to look into that type of business where sky's the limit and you're in full control of your business. And I think it's pretty easy to come to the conclusion that real estate was that niche. And that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
But going back to the fact that I was a salesperson at the time, I want to mention that because one of the challenges that I see, and there's a trend right now in our industry, is that real estate agents, which by definition they're sales representatives. Mm-hmm. So we have in front of our badge name, it's a sales representative. It's not a marketing representative. It's not a blogger representative. It's not a recruiter representative. Right. So I see the biggest challenge that a new agent or agents with very few years under their belt, what will be their activities to succeed in this business?
Yeah.
Because if you look right now, what's trending is real estate agents becoming bloggers, influencers, where they get deals of selling juices or selling pens. Yeah, I know, it's funny. We have recruiters. We have everything that you can imagine, but we don't have salespeople. And I was talking actually recently because I started training some agents, and it's funny because I treat this business as a corporation. And in this corporation, you know, of course, at the beginning, you will have to do all of the tasks. And you're looking at a corporation that has a marketing department, that has an operation department, but has also a sales department. And very rarely the sales department takes care of the marketing department or the operation department or the accountant department. But yet real estate agent seems to do all the other activities but what the sales department should do.
Yeah.
And that's, in my opinion, the part that I feel like salespeople are missing. They're almost like they're even ashamed to say the words salesperson because it's associated to somehow a negative connotation. When in fact, if I actually hire someone for the position of being a salesperson, I want that person to be a salesperson and definitely nothing else than a salesperson, which means it would close the transaction and, you know, the money exchange is happening.
Yeah.
I see that as a challenge because I feel like agents are overwhelmed by so many information about what they should spend their time. And about a week ago, I had an agent, and we do an assessment where I asked them what they're doing on a day. Like, literally tell me from the moment you open your eyes until you close your eyes, what are you doing? So she started telling me, well, I'm doing this, which was marketing department, check. I'm doing this, marketing department, check. So most of it was marketing.
Yeah.
Because right now, you're a blogger, you have to be a writer to be a salesperson because you're going to put all your thoughts into the Instagram posts. And I asked her, is there any activity that has anything to do with sales? Or all your activities are related to marketing? Because I'm under the impression that you're looking to become a very amazing, good marketing person. But that's not sales. It has nothing to do with, you know, prospecting or converting the leads or closing transactions. So that's where I think there is a huge challenge, I see it as a challenge where I feel like there's a shift between 10, 12 years ago when I started, and there was a lot of emphasis on how you make the sale, how we can get the sale done, how I can get, you know, whatever you get your prospects from, you know, your leads.
Yeah.
It has, obviously you need the leads, but you can buy today leads. Like, I have literally every single day at least 3 people texting me on Instagram that they have leads, and you can buy leads.
Yeah.
The problem is people would say they're bad leads, but they have no clue how to close them. They have no clue how to follow up, but they have an enormous amount of tenacity of video editing and blogging and very good writers. I think that a lot of them should focus into becoming, you know, magazine editors or anything like that. So that's what I think. And I find, besides that, on top of that, you have the pandemic, which puts you at home and makes you even more, you know, justifying it of spending your time into marketing and pictures. Like, all the ladies real estate are right now, you know, like fashion, I don't know, pictures.
Models.
Models, yeah.
Fashion models,
exactly.
yeah.
But not salespeople. So,
yeah. You know what's so funny about that is, like, you know, you bring up a good point. And in my neck of the woods, we call that creative avoidance. And what I mean by that is you're doing everything except what you need to do. And the reality of it is, you prioritize things differently in your business, and lead generation should be prioritized as the number one thing that you do every day. And while marketing does fit on that list somewhere, it's definitely not at the top. But I think what people do is they see a list and they look at it as, well, if I do this, then I can say what everybody says, right? And what everyone says, right? When you get home and your husband or your wife, you say, how was your day? And they're like, oh, I was busy today, right? You were busy. You were busy, but what were you busy doing, right? Were you actually busy doing something that was going to move the needle forward? Or were you just busy because you picked something on the list that you
actually enjoy doing?
Right. Yeah. And
because reality is nobody loves to do the calls, even to the prospects. Let's say, yeah, but I was generating leads. Well, where was in that day, that block time where you actually make the phone calls to these leads?
Yeah.
I get it. It's not a cold call because they found you on the internet, but they're still not going to call you. Are you calling them? Are you actually follow up with them 10 times a day if needed? Are you still closing for an appointment, or are you still busy next time doing another post on Instagram? But then the biggest challenge that I find is that it is very time consuming. It is very demanding. And it takes a lot of courage to start posting and put yourself up there, even with videos and everything on Instagram. So I understand that it actually feels like a lot, but it's still on the department of marketing department, because you never actually end up doing the sales department's job, which is making the calls and converting them into clients and paychecks. At the end of the day, it's not about, I want to be in real estate because all my goals in life are to be on the phone with people and sell their houses. Yeah. This is a business. My goal is to have a paycheck that goes in my account so I can spend it. And that's my goal in life, not, all the other parts. But yeah, I'm sorry for the long answer, but
listen, we're going down a really good path right now. And I think it's very relevant in today's market, especially. I'm curious though, why do you think people are afraid or don't prioritize lead generation? Why do you think that is?
Because it's very hard. It's very easy to be, very easy. Not easy. It's not easy to have it, because there's also people in real estate that they don't necessarily want to have their faces on Instagram or Facebook or any other platforms. So it takes courage to do that. But being rejected, it's even harder, because you put it out there. Who sees us, who doesn't, it doesn't really affect you. It's very secondary. We're talking with someone on the phone and hearing a very hard no, or even an aggressive no. It's very, very tough. So dealing with the rejection, it's the hardest part. So people are avoiding at all costs, making themselves busy with Instagram and Facebook and all of that.
Yeah. And ultimately it leads to their business demise. They end up either, having to get a second job or just getting out of the industry altogether, because they won't do. And, the reality of it is lead generation is not just important in real estate. It's important for any business. And so if you're not lead generating, you're probably on your way out, no matter what industry you're in.
And I just want to add to that, because I think there's two parts of it. It's lead generating, which absolutely. And I'm a little bit of a old school in a sense that I strongly believe that all the social media and all the technology added to the old school way of prospecting and should be integrated in the business. But in the same time, the old school should not be removed, because they complement each other. Yeah. But most importantly, after lead generation, because I know people that I gave away leads. Yeah. And they never converted. So I find that even more important than lead generating, which you can have the leads from anywhere. I'm not judging. You can buy it, you can cold call, you can door knock, you can, whatever it is, get your leads. But once you got the leads, what are you going to do with the leads?
Right.
Converting the leads is most important, because you have no paycheck without clients and sold You may have leads. I have leads. Yeah, they don't pay my mortgages. They only clients pay my mortgages. So people focus so much on how am I going to generate leads. There's as easy as Googling. You want to Google, you're going to find the answer. You want to find the answer that it's Facebook and Instagram. Yes, you're going to get leads from there. You want to find that it's cold calling. Yes, they're all of them. You don't have to be a genius. You don't have to pay millions of dollars for somebody to wake you up how you generate leads. The question is, you're going to be consistent to generate the leads, and you're going to convert the leads by being rejected and learn objections and close and be firm. That's where I think it comes from. You know, before when I started, it was the question how you generate leads, because we at least when I started at that time, it wasn't that popular, Instagram and buying leads. It was more like cold calling and door knocking. And people were wondering, what are the other options of generating leads? And that's how they came up with all the other tools of generating leads. But it was an equal focus on how to convert leads. Now everybody's like, oh, it's so easy to generate leads. I'm just going to generate leads. And then somehow, although they have leads, they have a poor business. Yeah. And they say, well, what was the point of generating leads? Well, the point wasn't to generate leads. The point was to generate leads and close them. Yeah. But the second part you forgot out of the conversation. So for that reason, the result is very, very poor. Yeah. So
it's Andrea, you know what? That's so good. Like, it's like really you put it so eloquently in that you simplified it, but yet people need to understand that, you know, lead generation, lead conversion, obviously two different things. And even under that, so those are just two little tiny umbrellas, right? So there's lead generation, right? And there's so many different ways to lead generate, right? There's so many different things you can do. And so, you know, you got to figure that out, right? What is the most efficient way
or what actually suits you as well? What suits you as a personality? It can be different things.
Right. And so so what that does is that makes it even more multifaceted and it's complex. It's not anything, there's no one size fits all other than is those foundational pillars are still the same, right? Lead generation, no matter what. And you've got to lead generate. So there's a lot of things that go under lead generation, lead conversion. There's a lot of things that go under lead conversion. And most of them have to do with you taking responsibility for getting better at scripts and dialogues, getting better at whatever video content you're putting out, right? And adding value to the consumer, whether it be, you know, buyers or sellers. And it never stops in our industry. And the minute that you stop trying to get better or improve is the minute your business starts to decay, essentially.
It's funny, you mentioned something that I think it's very important, and I want to emphasize it. The fact that when I talk with some agents, when we go over their business plan or their content or what they want to, you know, produce in their mass emails that they're sending out, they don't actually understand who's their consumer. So they're going into it without understanding who's my consumer, who's going to pay me. It's not about being, you know, this metrics that you have right now on social media, which are vain metrics of number of followers versus likes. Who's paying you? That's where you should focus, and that's what your content should be for that, you know, criteria. Yeah. If you're a real estate agent, but suddenly you're shifting towards being an influencer, then that's okay. You're starting posting or you're starting making the calls towards, you know, brands that they're going to pay you, and you make your money from there. There's nothing wrong in that. But if your clientele, the people that they're putting money in your pockets, are still the consumers that own houses, then your content should have nothing to do with the juice, because you're not selling juice. It should be in relation to what's important and what adds value to your clients, which are buyers and sellers. And that's another thing that I found it very interesting, and I talk with the people that I train, is buyers and sellers, they do transactions on a very minimal, I would say, unless you have an investor. One person in a lifetime has a maximum of 5 transactions. And let's say the first 3 are with you, the last 2, they lost it because you didn't do a good follow-up. Mm-hmm. So these people, in five times in their lifetime, that's when they're interested in real estate. So building actually business from social media, on where you post things about selling and buying, people are interested in that period of time, which is 6 to a year, that they're interested in the subject. Then after that, they're bored of you keep telling them things about homes and sales and this and that. Most people lose interest because they're not going to sell until next year. So it's very hard to create a real, Instagram or Facebook that will keep attracting people that they're real buyer and sellers. You're going to start attracting people that like renovations, that like staging, that like, training of real estate, other agents, and very little actually people that buy and sell houses that they're going to start calling you and say, I want to buy or sell. But you're going to have people asking, oh, do you use this stager? I would like to get in touch with her. Oh, do you use this contractor? I would like, all of these things. So I think agents should understand clearly who's their final goal and destination of the people that they want to ask them for business. Right. And I find it very, very challenging for real estate agents to really get from social media to just by posting something to get a sufficient number of leads that will cover actually your entire business plan financially. And I've seen also a lot of agents that they're claiming that it's only from that, when I know for a fact that they're sending tons of flyers in their areas and they're getting business from there, that I know that they have agents that they're calling and do the calling in the area. So I don't know, I'm a little bit upset that as agents, we're not telling the truth, which is you have to put in that portion that everybody's trying to make you think you're going to lose weight with. No, you're going to eat the same. You're going to do nothing, no exercise, and you're going to lose weight. Right. Well, you don't have to do anything, not the hard part, and you're going to have deals. When in fact that's not really the truth. You still have to learn your scripts. You still have to make the calls. And yes, do your social media as well. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying do it, but do the other portion as well. So that's pretty much it.
No, it's a great point. And, I think what you and I talked a little bit before the show, and, a lot of people don't understand the situation that you're actually in right now, where for the large part of 2020, your market was completely shut down. And so share a little bit about what you're actually going through in Toronto right now.
So I think I want to make that disclosure from the beginning, because I'm sure there's many agents in Toronto that 2020 may have been the best year in their business. In my situation, it was a personal decision. So it's not something, it was personal combined with the government and also our regulations. But the second, in late February, March, they closed down all sorts of businesses. Basically, out of the 7 clients that I was working actively that particular week, I closed everything. So, and that went for quite a number of months, which basically put me right now, when I do the review of the business plan, it left me literally with 3 months of work for this year. So indirectly, because you have a certain number of hours in a day, my business shrank quite a lot, which it's actually literally at half for this year.
Yeah.
But it's part of the business, and it's part of my business plan in the long term of organizing and making sure that you go through periods like that, which are really things that you can control, either economic situations, pandemics, which we never thought we were going to go through, and so on. So it's hard. Like I said, I don't want to talk for everybody. Like I said, many agents that I see on Facebook, different forums and different agent page agents and stuff like that, they're saying that they had no disruptions in terms of number of transactions and so on. And then I have others which I'm aware of that they decided to come out of the business altogether. And there's no question about it that this pandemic, I think, and we're still continuing to see effects of this pandemic. We'll have to see where it goes from here.
Yeah. How will this affect your business plan for 2021?
So 2021, I usually start planning at the beginning of November the next year. And it's funny you're asking, because one of the things that I'm trying to put together right now is my traveling plan, which is when I put together the plan, the business plan, the first thing that I put in there is my personal commitments and my time off. And there's nothing I can put right now. It's like, okay, how are we going to work this out?
Yeah.
So it's going to be a little bit challenging. I'm just at the stage of putting my bullet points of the things that I want to achieve from next year. I'm also looking into different directions as well, which I've been looking for them to happen this year. Yeah. And it didn't happen because of the pandemic. But we just have to move on and see what's going to happen. I mean, I'm going to plan like the pandemic would not be a factor, and then see how it goes. Yeah.
Talk to me about your mindset. How are you staying positive through all this?
During the pandemic, I would say at the beginning, it was a clear understanding that this is the best decision for myself. Yeah, I lost you for a second.
The best decision for yourself?
Yeah, so it was the best decision for myself and the family and my clients that, we didn't know at the time how bad can become and so on, to shut it off. I think my head frame was still good, because if it were for me not to have any source of income for a full year, I would not feel it. So that was quite, reassuring. Unfortunately, looking back right now, I wish I would have used the time a little bit different, which I didn't.
What do you mean by that?
Well, there were a couple of things. The second it happened, you get into that, mode of, oh, this is going to be just for the 2 weeks. And then you're not going into planning something else, because in 2 weeks, you're going back into, and then in 2 weeks, I start prospecting and start calling some leads. And the conversation was a little bit awkward. The response from the prospects was like, what are you talking about? We're in pandemic. So it was a little bit of an adjustment. But then looking back, there were a couple of things that I wanted to do. And somehow the time went without me doing it. And I think if, for example, right now they're talking about the second shutdown. And I said, well, if the second shutdown happens, now I know exactly what I'm going to do and how I'm going to plan it, my time, being locked in the house, which wasn't as pleasant. So
yeah. Would you mind sharing like what you would do this time if you had the opportunity to do it all over again? How would you change what you did? Obviously, the conversation may be a little bit differently, but what are you thinking you would do differently exactly this time around?
This year was planned from 2019 was planned that I'm going to put together the foundation of opening my own brokerage. And it was delayed, and like it was keep pushing by this pandemic, and I end up not doing it because of that. And I didn't actually, in fact, didn't go further into plan all the steps and do the research necessary, which I started in the last 2 months. But if I would have started, for example, in February, until now, I would have had everything put together and eventually being able to, incorporate and started right away. So now, the last 2 months, I start the process, and now it's going to take me another couple of months but I got busy. I got really busy at work. So it took away from, I think the mindset was not correct. When I was staying home waiting for everything to open, I should have done that. But the second I got busy, I started doing that as well. Yeah. So it wasn't a good timing between me being extremely busy with a lot of clients and basically condensing a lot of transactions in 3 months, which I would have done in half a year. And then in the same time saying, okay, things are starting to roll, so let's put together the brokerage. And it's just made it slower to develop. So I should have take that time to develop all the business plan for the brokerage instead of just waiting for us to reopen. So if the second close down happens, my focus will be 100% on the business plan of the new brokerage. Yeah.
Love it. And just like that, 40 minutes is gone. Wow. Andrea, great story, man. I could talk to you for another hour. I think you've got a lot of value to add to our audience just based on your experience and what you've gone through with the pandemic. That doesn't even include the real estate experience that you've obviously acquired. Let me ask you this. If somebody wants to get a hold of you just to learn a little bit more about you, your business, what's the best way or best channel, I guess, to try and contact you on?
Phone. I love phone. I know people are texting. I know people are, but my cell phone is actually everywhere, from my signs to my social media to my website. It's Andrea and Andrea at AndreaBlumTeam.com. That's my email, my direct email, 416-274-2163. It's my cell number, and it's everywhere. So I answer actually to my cell phone, and I on Instagram, Andrea at Andrea Blum Team. I think it's Andrea Real Estate or something. Yes.
Andrea's a great follow too on Instagram, guys. She posts some really cool pictures and stuff and has some great consistency on her account. Andrea, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you joining the show today. As usual, I love sharing these stories week after week because I know this show is literally changing agents' financial lives, my own included. Do me a favor, if you know someone that might enjoy the podcast, please share it with them. And if you like the podcast, please go to wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure you subscribe. And if you like Miss Andrea Blum's episode today, please give us a 5-star review. Don't forget to visit MikeWallLive.com, where you can get 8 hours of absolutely free real estate business training. And I think we're going to put a bow on this one. Andrea, again, thank you so much for joining the show. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you.